As a psychologist and executive coach, I have the opportunity to meet with a lot of different leaders from diverse backgrounds. The one skill that continually emerges consistently as a foreshadowing of their ability to be good leaders and to connect with others is the skill of cultural intelligence. Cultural intelligence refers to a person's ability to function effectively in culturally diverse contexts. My hope is for every person that I meet, every person that I work with, and everyone in here today that we get to enhance our cultural intelligence by asking ourselves 4 questions when we're talking about culturally sensitive topics, especially in the work environment. But to do that, I want to take a step back and say, why is cultural intelligence actually important? Why does it matter? Of course, it matters for leadership, but it also matters for life as well. And this became evidently clear to me in a maybe unlikely setting. It was actually came very clear to me that cultural intelligence was incredibly important during my time in the military. Like many people, after 9/11, I was prompted, as many young people, I was prompted to action, doing something different. And so my senior year of high school was 9/11, and it really changed the trajectory of my life in many, many ways. And so, as a young person, I enlisted in the United States Army Infantry. A couple of years later, I found myself in Iraq in 2004 on a deployment. And there, I learned a lot about the toll of war. I learned about human suffering. I became really interested in psychology and human behavior and the way that people responded to pain and how they became resilient. It was a deep interest. And I got to serve with some incredible people along the way that really shaped me. But there was one moment, one day, that was the most formative, more than any other days. And that day was on September 30th of 2004. On September 30th of 2004, it started off like a regular day. We're out patrolling, area, zone reconnaissance, and then something happened. We responded as a quick reaction force to multiple car bombs, suicide car bombs, that happened in the southwest Baghdad area. When I got there on scene, it was almost as if I couldn't really comprehend what I was looking at. It was hard to really understand what was happening. The aftermath of that was there was 42 Iraqis that were killed. 35 of them were under the age of 12. There's 140 wounded Iraqis and 11 soldiers that were wounded. These weren't strangers. These were our friends. These are the people that we shared meals with. These are the people that we worshiped with. These were the people that we went out in sector and saw on a consistent basis. It was a tough day. For the next few minutes, we tried to do everything that we could in order to help and do anything that we could in order to preserve life. I can remember when I got back to the barracks that day, I took my journal and I just climbed up to the top of the barracks and I just wrote and I cried. I wept. And I remember thinking about how many soldiers that I had seen that day feeling just so distraught. Professional soldiers, grown men, cry and weep at what we had experienced. It was very traumatizing, but it wasn't our first time experiencing death in that deployment. There were many other days, even earlier, April 9th, April 11th, May 15th, June 11th. But this day was different. It shifted us. The entire mood over the entire unit changed. It was almost like we went through something together, but some of us became really isolated. Some of us got lost in video games. Other people started just staying inside of their room, not reaching out, not talking to others. And it became something that was really hard for us to deal. We almost had a culture of suffering in silence. I'm sure many people can relate. But one thing happened that was unique, and that was some of the best leaders that we had during that time, they pulled us out emotionally. They came around and just started talking to us. Hey, how are you doing? What's going on? I know that you've seen a lot of things over the last couple of days. This experience was really hard. Can I talk with you for a few minutes? Can I be with you for few minutes? They weren't coming in and telling us just to suck it up and deal with it. They were asking us, what's going on? They didn't avoid topics related to moral injury or the trauma that we were experiencing. They didn't tell us that we didn't have to go out anymore, but they said, I'll be with you when we do go out. They'd encourage us. And it really set a mental model for me for what leadership looks like and what it means to be culturally intelligent in a moment that is so loaded based off our own cultural identities that we hold, the way that we grieve, the way that we handle pain from our cultural backgrounds and our experiences. And it set that mental model. And it made me think about cultural intelligence. Cultural intelligence is something that can be developed. Just like a muscle that you continue to lift, it grows. And cultural intelligence is the same. It's something that we have to work at. We have to continue to employ time after time again for us to be the type of leaders that respond effectively in the most critical moments of life. So you might be asking yourself, well, how do I actually develop my cultural intelligence? And so I've started and developed a conceptual model called the CARE model. It's an easy model, an easy acronym to remember, of 4 questions that can guide you in conversation when you're talking about something that's very sensitive, culturally sensitive, has lots of variables and implications to it. And so the C stands for connect, and it's asking yourself this question: can I connect to their human experience in this moment? Can I connect and have empathy for somebody who's experiencing something that might be hard and challenging? The next is A, which is accept. Can I accept that I might have a different perspective? A lot of times people feel that you need to have the same perspective as somebody else who's in pain, and that's not necessarily the case. And just because somebody has a different perspective doesn't break the connection that you have with them. So can you accept that you might have a different perspective, and that's absolutely okay? You can also accept the fact that even if you have a different perspective, that doesn't mean that you have to share it immediately. Can you pause? Can you listen? Can you wait? And can you accept? R stands for reflect. Ask yourself, can I reflect what I have just learned from them? As a psychologist, one of the skills that we learn is being able to summarize. And not summarizing with your hot take of what they said or your interpretation of what they said, but actually capturing what they are communicating and what they're feeling. So can I reflect what I have learned from them? I hear you saying this. And finally, can I encourage them to have another conversation? Encouragement to say, hey, look, I'm here with you, and I want to talk about this again is so powerful. During that time, the best leaders came back, and they didn't have just one conversation with us. They had a conversation over and over again. Hey, I'm just checking in on you. Some of the best leaders would come in and say, hey, just put their hand on your shoulders and say, I hope you're doing all right. Or they would give you a hug, which was relatively absent the entire year. So it meant a lot when you had that physical touch. For us in this room, it might be that you're having these conversations over and over again, and you're coming back to revisit them well past the news cycles when they have gone, well past the election, right? And you're taking an opportunity to say, I want to follow up and have another conversation about this. So what happens when you actually employ this CARE model? There's 3 things that happen that I want to talk about. The first thing that happens is trust deepens. When you have an opportunity to feel that somebody really does care about what's going on inside of you, and they're listening and they're taking time, your trust deepens between that team. You feel seen, you feel heard, and that's highly correlated with high-performing teams. The second thing that happens is decision-making improves. When you hear multiple perspectives from others who look differently than you, who vote differently than you, who worship differently than you, it gets more perspectives on the table so we can see all of the variables and to recognize those cultural blind spots to make better decisions of what's next and what do we do. And the third thing that happens is your interpersonal connection grows. If we continue to enhance our cultural intelligence, it allows us to be able to be the type of people that ask ourselves the question in the moment, what does this person need from me right now? Right now in this conversation? What can I do to serve them? What can I do to help them and help us as a team collectively? So, what happens if you don't employ cultural intelligence? A lot of times, your credibility erodes. You find yourself disconnected from others. Your interpersonal conflict rises, and you feel even more isolated. So, I want to encourage everyone to be the type of people who commit to cultural intelligence, to be the type of people who commit to being learners and to continuing to grow with others. Cultural intelligence comes alive when we connect with courage and choose to engage in conversations dealing with emotion and not just cognition, to accept with humility that there might be something to learn in every interaction that we have with someone else, to reflect with honesty, and finally, to encourage with purpose, to continue to come back to the conversation, and to be the type of people who truly are culturally intelligent and engage in cultural intelligent behaviors. It's a commitment. So whether you are a military commander, a military member, whether you're an executive, whether you are a family member, I hope that you use this framework as a guide that will lead you to deeper empathy towards others, to have a posture of curiosity towards others, and to lead people well, whoever you are and wherever you're at. Thank you.